Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. It's nice to see you too. Welcome to your 2018 Citizens Climate Lobby Citizens Climate Education Conference.
Hey, I'm Jessie Diggins. I'm part of the U.S. ski team, and this past winter I had the great honor of being part of Team USA as we represented our country in the sport of cross-country skiing in Pyeongchang, South Korea. I also had the amazing honor to be part of the team that won the first ever women's gold medal in cross-country skiing with Keegan Randall. But our sport has a huge challenge ahead of us: climate change. Rising temperatures and changing snowfall patterns are directly affecting the entire ski industry, from the courses we run, to the businesses who make our equipment, to the towns who rely on winter tourism. We need a solution that's effective and smart for our economy. That's why I endorsed carbon fee and dividend as a solution that Congress should enact. This is our best real option for solving climate change, our best real option to protect our winters and save the sport I love so much. One thing I want to emphasize is the importance of being part of a team. I could not have accomplished what I did without my teammates. Not just Keegan, but everyone, from the coaches to the trainers to the equipment managers to the fundraisers. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. My victory was so much sweeter because I was part of a team. All of you gathered here today are part of an amazing, unique team, and probably the most important team ever assembled. And it takes all of you working together to actually save our planet. So thank you so much for going out and lobbying for this real solution to climate change.
Yeah. If Paul Thompson and Bill Barron are here, if they could stand up, that was not going to happen for a long time, and they just refused to give in. So, yeah. So how do you like a gold medal athlete saying that this is probably the most important team ever assembled? Do you like the sound of that? Oh, goodness. So most organizations work on either a calendar year or a fiscal year. That's either January to December or when they close their books out. We kind of function from June to June because this event is so important for us. And this June to June was both the most challenging and the most exciting year we've ever had. Challenging because if you identify yourself as an organization, if who you've said this is who we are, is generosity and decency, and what I have in common with other people, and particularly what I have in common with people who I disagree with politically and ideologically, if you say that's who you as an organization, this was a hard year to work in. And I want to really thank you for maintaining what we call the CCL way in a year where a lot of people joined a race to the bottom. So that was part of it. The other side, is this. We've always believed that the only chance of successful, long-term, enduring legislation had to be bipartisan. And for it to be bipartisan, there needed to be Republican leadership. What was different after last June's conference was any other conference was this. We've had Republican office holders say they're interested in introducing fee and dividend legislation. What happened from starting after last year's conference, it was a group of members in the House. So we had a group of members in the House of Representatives meeting regularly between 5 and 11 offices, the same offices, and what they were doing was hashing out language that could be submitted as a fee and dividend proposal. In fact, by the time we got to November, 97% of your staff was convinced, based on the evidence, that we would be working on a bill by March. But people are complicated, politics are complicated, and obviously that bill isn't out yet. Here's the good news. The good news is we are ready. From the minute we started to get those indicators, we did everything we could do as an organization to prepare ourselves so that when a bill dropped, we were doing everything we thought we needed to do to get it passed. That also meant your chapter. So if you were looking at the activities of your chapter, the first 3 months of this year, what we asked you to do is to do the work so that if a bill dropped, your chapter was doing what it needed to do. So the good news is we're ready. What you're going to hear over the course of the rest of today and this afternoon's planning session and tonight's legislative session is our plan to seize the moment, whether it's now or whether it's in the near distant future. So you're going to lay out what I believe is a very coherent plan about how we seize the moment. Okay. Let's find out a little bit about who's here first, though. First of all, this is the first time in the history of this conference that there's people from all 50 states. 26 of 50 states had every single congressional district covered. The regional and state coordinators set a goal of having someone from every congressional district, and we got people from 371 congressional districts, which is 85% of the Congress. It's absolutely remarkable. In 40 of those 50 states, people who identified themselves as right of center are here. If you remember 5 years ago, Bob Inglis was doing the keynote, and he asked people who identified themselves as conservative to stand up, and it was 4 people. And that is like maybe my most cringe moment in the history of the conference. It's like, oh yeah, we're bipartisan. We have tons of people from both sides of the aisle. Yeah, 4 is tons, right? 121 people this year identified themselves as right of center who are at the conference this year. We have 12 Canadians this year. We've got Tammy from Panama, Matilda from Sweden. David Michael is back here again from Nigeria, our African regional coordinator, as well as Tossin from Nigeria. We have 341 group leaders, 275 liaisons, 14 regional coordinators, and 52 state coordinators, and 21 interns, and 47 other organizations that have sent people to give talks. EE News is here, the Washington Examiner, Mother Jones, and Inside Climate News. So there's a lot of people here, and we're excited about that. If you were at the movie Happening last night, Jamie Redford, the director, is here, as well as Diogo Ferrer, the director of Saving Snow, who 155 times this year, you hosted presentations on saving snow. Okay, before we go too far, I want to give us a chance to thank our conference planning team. So 3 years ago, I read a study on what are the 5 most stressful jobs in the US. Number 1 and 2 are Afghanistan and Iraq. 3 and 4 are police and firework. And 5 is event planning. And if you've done event planning, you know exactly what you're talking about. Because what you do is you live in a constant condition of everything that's not going to work. It'd be nice if you could kind of be present to, oh, we're going to do this amazing event and great things are happening. But what you do is you live in a complete sense of dread. So I'm going to introduce the planning team over, yes, in just a second. But if all of you could come a little bit closer. I want to read an email that Allison, who has the white jacket on, sent to the rest of the planning team over the Memorial Day weekend. She said, I had a really relaxing weekend until night crept in and I had conference nightmares 2 nights in a row. Saturday's nightmare that we had some interns run all of AV and they were playing some videos on YouTube and Regency and some ads kept popping up about video games and skateboarding. Sunday's nightmare, again, was interns, completely failing at the registration desk, and also some AV was going on. I went into the board meeting to get Ricky to help, and he completely ignored me, and Mark yelled at me and told me to leave the room. I had a nightmare a couple of months ago that these giant roaches, like a foot long, were crawling all over the Regency ceiling and Mark's head, and we had to have the hotel come in and vacuum them off the ceiling. She says, anyone else having nightmares to share or some kind of assurance that this will not happen? So could you please thank Ashley, Kathleen, and Allison, our planning team.
now, right?
Yeah, but I'll tell them that you're the leader now. Great. Thank you. Okay, and Ashley is going to review some of the conference details with us right now.
Good morning. Hi. It is always so amazing to me to look out here and see the growth every year as I get up here to kind of guide you through what to expect today. So Allison and I... Is that better? There's an echo. All right, is that better? All right, great, here we go, let's try that again. So Allison and I joke that one of the best sounds in the world is more than 1,000 people opening up their conference folder and hearing this nice whooshing sound as they shuffle through their papers, because it means that we've started the conference and didn't die yet, and that we have kicked things off, and we're excited to share that experience with you all. So this year we don't have folders with papers, we have folios with Velcro. So we're wondering what that sound is going to sound like, because we're going to go through a couple handouts. So on the count of 3, get your folios out, and we're going to open those up and go through some handouts. I don't know, that doesn't have the same effect as shuffling papers. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll work on that. Okay, so we're going to go through what to expect in our training sessions today. So on the left side in the file slots, you've got our annual report. And this is something that Lene is going to review tomorrow. It's hot off the presses, brand new and more beautiful than ever. We also have behind that our leave behind sheets. There's 2 of them, and meeting minute sheets. Those are just single pages. There's no yellow carbonless copy this year. We have our endorsers of carbon fee and dividends list and our media packet in the next slot, and the caucus roster. And then behind that, we have 2 pages that are for this afternoon at 2 p.m. Those are the volunteer action plan and the bipartisan communications sheet. And then behind that section is the supporting asks, the green, and the legislation of interest, the pink sheet, and those will be used for tonight. Okay, so we're going to talk through your program for just a moment. So if you want to turn to page 4, and while you're shuffling to page 4, sorry, there we go. Ricky animated my slides. All right, so while you're turning to page 4, there's my dog Murphy, and today is his birthday. He's 2 years old. So happy birthday, Murphy. He's very sad that I am not home to take him on a hike today, but that's okay. So on page 4, we have information on connecting to the Wi-Fi here. I know that's been a big question this morning, and the mobile app. So if you're looking for stuff for your schedule and you've misplaced your program, if you have the app loaded on your phone, you'll be good to go. And then page 5 is the next couple of days. I want to point out that tomorrow night, Monday, from 8 to 11, the social time with DJ and dancing is going to be in the Palladian room. That was changed from Ambassador to Palladian. And I will make that announcement again tomorrow. Okay, so pages 6 to 7 is the Sunday schedule. And so we are going to break in a few minutes for a break, and then after that break, people are going to go into their experience-focused workshops. And so we are going to have the group leaders and liaisons who usually stay in this room go across the hall to the ambassador room for that session. And that's because we have so many new people here that are going to be taking the climate advocate training that we need the bigger space for the climate advocate training and workshop. So that's really exciting. And so if you're not a group leader or liaison who's going to be going over to ambassador, and you're not somebody that's a new volunteer or who hasn't had our climate advocate training before, then you're going to be attending some of our skills building workshops, which are listed on page 7. So those are really exciting, and those are led by other CCL volunteers or group leaders. We're going to go over the Monday breakouts tomorrow. I want to point out page 24 is the action team listings. And I already saw, as I was trying to come down here earlier, that the room where the action team tables were was packed with people. And I'm really excited because those are ways to get really involved in something that might be specifically of your interest. And then the last announcement I'm going to make this morning is the constituent letters. So how many of you have brought constituent letters from your group back home? All right, so thank you for collecting comments from constituents. And what we're going to have you do is drop off those letters into Forum over the next day. And so we need all of those letters dropped off and organized no later than 11 a.m. tomorrow. And then we will announce tomorrow when you're able to pick those up if you're a meeting team lead. So again, drop those off to the Forum room, which is just past that shoe shine station. And do that before 11 a.m. tomorrow. Okay. And that's it.
Thank you. Nicely done. Thank you.
Your mic is working again?
I think so. Okay. And before we go too far, I also want to welcome a really, really special group of people who are here. So this is your first time coming to our CCL conference here in DC. Could you stand up so we could welcome you? So here's what I want you to know. First of all, there's over 500 new people registered for the conference this year, which is the most new people we've ever had at any conference. So that's fantastic. If you're new, one of the things I want you to notice is there are twice as many people who have been here before. So if you have some anxiety, if you have any sense of trepidation about being on the Hill, the people who are here are really good at doing this. They're going to make sure that you are successful on the Hill on Tuesday. So I know that for most of us, and me in particular, I had a lot of anxiety the first time I went on the Hill. And you should have some. You know, the stakes are big. I just want you to know the people that are here with you are really experienced. They know what they're doing. They're going to make sure that you succeed on the Hill on Tuesday. Okay. I also would like to give you a chance to introduce yourself to 3 people around you. Not 1, not 10, 3. 3. And I want you to tell them 4 things about yourself. 4. Close enough, right? Hold on, no, don't do it yet. I haven't told you what the 4 things are. Shh. No, please stop talking. I got to tell you what the 4 things are first. Raise your hand, everybody. Okay. If there's someone talking around you, just turn to them and say, could you just hang on for a second? Okay, so here's the 4 things I want you to do. I know you have a name tag. So the first thing I want you to do is to tell them your name, nevertheless. It's just how you introduce yourself to someone. Second thing is I want you to say what chapter or city you're from, okay? The third thing is how many times you've been here. So if this is your first time, it'll give us a way to finding out who's new so we can make sure to look out for you on the Hill on Tuesday. And then the fourth thing is I want you to fit yourself in one of 4 CCL age categories. We have 4 age categories. And we don't tell you what age you fit in, you just determine it. So number 1 is young, okay? Number 2 is neither young nor old. 3 is old. 4 is really old. Okay? So please introduce yourself to 3 people and do that, please. Thank you. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Thank you. So in just a moment, Amy Bennett is going to go over your schedules and meeting notes. So she'll be going through some really important details for the conference. Before we do that, I just want to mention that for the last 9 years, I keep making the same blunder with Amy that I make all the previous years. In that sometime after the conference, I say, so Amy, what'd you think of Katharine Hayhoe? And she said, I didn't see Katharine Hayhoe. So then the next year I say, well, what'd you think of Hari Hahn? She goes, I didn't see Hari Hahn. Well, what'd you think of Anthony Leisowitz? I didn't see Anthony Leisowitz. Because for the last 9 years, Amy has been out at the scheduling desk making sure that everybody's schedules work. And the reason we get so many appointments every year is because the behind the scenes, just hard, keeping their head down with Amy and her interns, they just do an enormous amount of work to make sure that this comes off as a great event for you. So she's going to go over some details, but if you would please, I would be really grateful. Thank her for 9 years of making this conference great.
Thank you. Mark, is this working? Mark? Can you hear me? Is this working? Can you hear me? Terrific, terrific. Great to see you all. I'm Amy Bennett, Director of Congressional Liaisons and Lobby Days. Can you hear me? And we're going to move really quickly here. So are you ready? We're going to go over lobby schedules and taking meeting minutes. And unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but as Mark said, talk to those veterans around you, and they are absolutely going to be able to help you. So thank you for loving your schedules. You should all have 2 meetings. A few of you have 3 and some to be determines. Your schedules will have on them a list of your meeting team members and the meeting lead and all the times of your teammates' other meetings. This is particularly helpful if things change. You can also check with the meeting lead about the status of your meeting just to make sure it's still set for the same time. So what I'd like you to do is look at your schedule and under the box that says time, see if you have a to be determined meeting. If that's the case, that's an appointment that wasn't able to be set by the time the schedules went out. So you can check with your meeting lead about the status of that meeting. They should know. Under the time box, also check to see if you have a delivery-only meeting. There's just a few of them, luckily, but we do have a few meetings where we couldn't get the meeting, a few offices, but we're still going to go by and say hello to that office and drop off materials and give them the huge CCL smile. It's a great opportunity to have a warm conversation with staffers who are going to continue probably to work on the Hill, possibly in that office, possibly another office. And then the materials you're going to drop off are our one-page ask and the constituent letters that Ashley talked about. Now, if you're the lead of a delivery-only meeting, and there might only be a few people scheduled for that meeting, I'd like to ask the leads to be sure to assign a minute taker. We actually upload minutes on what happened in that delivery meeting as well. And so that's a little bit about your schedule. What about schedule changes? We're asking that you don't make changes in your schedule unless absolutely necessary. It's like a giant Jenga game, and there's a domino effect. So it does affect a lot of people when changes happen. If a conflict arises, for instance, your to-be-determined meeting gets set, and you have a conflict, please go to both of the leads of each of those meetings and ask what's the best thing to do and collaborate with them. So out of courtesy, we like to ask to make sure that other meeting is not left, that there's no one in that meeting because everybody left. Next, did you hear, in regards to meeting changes, did you hear we have speed dating? We have, right outside here is the schedule desk, and to the left are some speed dating signs. And what this is about is 2 things. If you're someone who would like to add a meeting to your schedule, then there's a place to put your name and what time you have available and your contact information. The other set of whiteboards is for the leads of meetings where the meeting might have changed and they don't really have enough people to fill that meeting. So the lead would go to that board, put the information about the meeting and the lead's contact information. So this is self-serve, so you want to put information on one board and then check the other board to see if there's a meeting you can fit into. So that's the speed dating. Now there are sometimes real problems that arise. Like for instance, you're from Arizona and you got your schedule and all your meetings are in Alabama. Come see me. Another topic is we have sometimes where constituents can join the meeting by phone. There's a few areas where a constituent couldn't come, and if you look in the special notes section of your meeting schedule, it might say, call Jane Smith. And what we do in that case is we call Jane Smith and her contact information, and the meeting lead arranges for one of the members who's got a good cell phone. When the meeting starts, call that person and have them join the meeting. We actually only have time to call one person. If we try to conference people in, very valuable time is lost in the meeting. So, and another note is sometimes that just doesn't work out because your meeting ends up in a hallway or in the cafeteria or something like that. Those of you who are veterans know this happens. So sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it's lovely to have a constituent in the room on speaker if possible. Next is meeting minutes. So for each meeting, the lead would assign a note taker, and we'd like to ask the lead to document that. There's even a place for it on your schedule. This is a really critical role. Again, we submit meeting minutes for every single office on the Hill. And so what the meeting minute taker does is, number one, take notes. 2, reviews those notes with the team after the meeting. So we want you to stay with the team, walk down the hall, and review what happened, so if there's any confusion, you know what really happened in the meeting. You can get some clarification. And then you submit those notes within 24 hours, and that's what the note taker does. Obviously, this allows us to document what happens in the meeting. And you should each have 1 or 2 meeting minute forms in your packet. And as Ashley said, we're saving a few trees this year. We don't have the carbonless copy, and you do not need to submit them at the reception. We're just counting on you to submit them online within 24 hours. So 3 points about taking meeting notes. First, make sure your meeting notes are legible so you can read them afterwards. So you want to have something firm to write on and a good pen. Second, what is it that you record? What you want to really pay attention to is what the Congress member or the staff person says, and mostly record that. As far as some tips on that, you might use initials, like if you're meeting with Paul Ryan, PR. If the constituent is JS, John Smith, use JS. We do want you to write down everyone in the meeting. If the congressperson was there, what the staffer's name and title is, all of the people in the meeting from CCL, and put a little C in parentheses for anyone who's a constituent. So C for constituent. And let's see, right after the meeting, again, walk down the hall, not right outside the door, but down the hall so you're not overheard, and huddle with your group and just make sure you did get everything correct, because it's hard. The meetings go really fast, so it's good to review that. We'd also like you to clarify with the team how you would give a level of support to 2 questions. And on the back of your meeting minute forms, you'll see a rating gauge for this. Is you want to gauge the level of support the office shows for an understanding of climate change. That's 1. And the second is the level of support for carbon fee and dividend. Again, that's a little more information on the back of the form on that. And I also don't suggest composing your meeting minutes online. What if the internet goes down? What if you press the submit button and it just doesn't submit? I like to draft mine in a Word document or a Google Doc or something like that. That way I can cut and paste it, and if something doesn't happen, you can just do that again. About the 24-hour deadline, we have done extensive research on this, and we find that if you don't submit them within 24 hours, I become an old nag, and we don't want to go there. So 2 final thoughts here for everyone. One is, as we mentioned, we have media and other NGOs here, so it's important to keep what was said in the meeting confidential just to your meeting team. It's great to say, hey, I was really encouraged by the meeting, but you want to not talk about details with anyone. And then the other thing is, Remember to wear your badges. There are 1,200 of us on the Hill, and we want to let everybody know we're here and we mean business. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy your lobby day.
I'll take the microphone. Thank you. Okay, I want to just reiterate one thing that Amy just said about keeping the meeting minutes confidential. That is really, really important. Tuesday night at the reception, we can talk about what happened. Let's not mention which member of Congress it is. Give that to Joe, thank you. Just keep that for a minute. Joe's the mic holder. Really important at the reception. There's other NGOs that'll be there. There's media. We don't want to violate something somebody said to us privately in a meeting. Okay, I want to go through a couple of things on the schedule. So there's a couple of changes from what's in your program. First of all, what Ashley said, which is if you're a group leader or a liaison, after this session, we'll be going across the hall. People who are new will be staying here. And then there'll be breakouts throughout the building. Sunday afternoon is really important. Sunday afternoon is Madeline Para, our Vice President of Programs, laying out our strategy, along with Danny Richter, our legislative strategy. Tony Cerna used to be in our IT department, but he proved to be so effective and useful in the area of strategy that we've moved him up to be the strategy coordinator, and he really is the person who organizes and manages our strategy on a go-forth basis. Somebody that many of you probably haven't met yet, Jamie DeMarco, heads up our state-level program. If you were on our call in December of 2016, after the election, and we knew that we probably didn't have the Clean Power Plan as leverage anymore, you know, we knew that we needed to replace the Clean Power Plan with something else, and so we have added emphasis in particular states where we think we can be successful. He'll be laying out that program. And then Kathy Orlando, our international manager. If you read our blog, if you read the newsletter, you know some of the group starts we've been doing have just been crazy lately. There's places in Africa where there's not a good enough internet connection for us to be able to even do it by Zoom. So she's been doing group starts by WhatsApp. And she's doing one in French because she's bilingual coming up. So she'll be telling us about that. And then Joe Robertson, who also manages our UN program, is going to come up from it and talk about what's our way forward without Paris. Joe, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Closer.
And can you hear me?
Closer.
All right. There's a quiet daring that happens in the person who says, I refuse to accept what's not right. And without that quiet moment of daring, the effort to confront what is unacceptable cannot get started. The work of making a better, freer, more livable world is in our hands. We owe it to each other, to those who will come after us, to go beyond zero-sum games, to outmaneuver corrosive political actors, and build new value wherever human ingenuity allows. To build on your hard work and dedication to make sure public service is more honorable than cynics would allow, our international outreach manager, Kathy Orlando, our continental coordinators like Mike Tirangwa and Tammy Kellogg are working to build CCL groups everywhere around the planet. Our 100,000 volunteers are now spread across 43 countries on 6 continents. We've created a toolkit so that stakeholders anywhere can contribute to the UN climate talks. A series of diplomatic dialogues we've been co-organizing has led to the creation of Resilience Intel, which is a climate-smart finance initiative to shift all finance to climate-smart priorities within 20 years. The core concept of Resilience Intel, economy-wide resilience intelligence, is going to be given as guidance to the ministers from 195 countries in this year's negotiations. Hope is a commitment to connect action to consequence. Every bit of energy you put into this better civics justifies the natural hope of billions of people around the world that we will transcend the politics of fear and damage and build a future that works for people and for our planet's life support systems. You should know that the people of other nations are inspired by how the people of this nation have responded to our government's inaction on climate. As a result of the We Are Still In movement, whose collective climate action commitment eclipses that of nearly every other nation on Earth, we're now talking about economy-wide national climate action plans. Your volunteering is part of that. From our CCL volunteers around the world and from our friends in the international negotiations, Thank you for being the builders of inclusive political will that you are, so we can go further, faster, together.
Great. Take that with you. Take it with you. I'll take it. Cool. Okay, so let me just go through the rest of the schedule with you real quick. So 7 o'clock tonight will be Danny Richter. I'm showing you also his team, Stephanie O'Doyle, Andres Jimenez, Ben Pendergrass, and Jay Butera. If you look forward to Marshall's comments every year, you want to be here at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, because that's when Marshall's going to be speaking. I know a lot of us look forward to it. If you're not here at 9 o'clock, you're going to miss him. And his talk is short this year, but you're going to love it. The keynote panel is Dr. James Hansen on our advisory board. Yep. Adele Morris, who's kind of the Washington, D.C. economist for economists. Dr. Natasha DeJarnette from our governing board, and Tricia Goering from the Ocean Conservancy. The second panel will be Ted Halstead and also 2 of the students from Students for Climate Dividends, the leader of the Yale chapter and also the Harvard chapter. So they'll be there for the second panel. We'll finish up tomorrow morning with Leslie Beatty. Leslie will be talking about our branding and marketing efforts. And I think you're going to be excited to hear our plan to make our communications more focused, more direct, more effective. There's a whole bunch of great plenary sessions from 1:30 to 5, and then 5:15 is a change. In your program, it says that that's going to be Ted Deutsch. It's actually going to be Congressman Delaney from Maryland. The congressional calendar changed, which it often does, and so then we have to adjust. And thank goodness Congressman Delaney was able to step in and replace Ted Deutsch. Okay, so then we go on the Hill all day Tuesday and have a reception. And then I want to remind you, Ted Deutsch is still going to try and make it Tuesday night, but I want to remind you what he said 2 years ago when he came and spoke at our reception. He said, "It is through your hard work that we've been able to bring members from both sides of the aisle together. We've been able to change the conversation from burden to opportunity, and from fear to hope, and from obstruction to action. Our work so far and our plans to make climate solutions a priority in Congress are wholly dependent. And I feel really good about what I'm about to say, given what I've seen so far. Our success is wholly dependent upon your energy, your passion, and your commitment." It is only through your continued effort that this caucus and our nation can meet the many challenges that climate change presents. I look forward to joining you in that effort. I look forward to expanding this movement. I look forward to showing that the U.S. Congress is not broken beyond repair. I look forward to turning climate solutions into law and policy that will drive a sustainable future for us, for our future, and for our planet. All right, everybody, listen, thank you so much for being here this year. Let's go have a great conference.